Hello, my name is Anthony Hall, and in this tutorial I'm going to be doing two ways of how to make brass relief. Now, one of the subscribers, Mike, has put a message saying, hello, is it possible to make brass release from 3D models in Lightwave? So what I'm going to do is show you two ways of how we can go around doing that, and here's the two examples that I've kind of got. One is one polygon, this one here, and this one is lots of polygons using a displacement map, but I'm going to show you how to do both, but also how to make the maps. Okay, so let's just close this down, and we're going to go to an online piece of software by exo3d.co.uk, and it's this, and it's basically a normal map creator, but it creates a lot more than just normal maps. It also lets you create displacements, ambient occlusion and specular maps as well, and you've got the different few little tools, and it's not hard to use as well. So that's what we're going to do to make the maps we need. So before I started, what I did, I went on the internet and I found an image, this one, that I just downloaded, just cropped it a little bit. It's not cropped amazingly. I'm just going to use this as a guide so you can go and get whatever image you want to do or use. So in here, the first thing I do is I'm going to drop that image in. So you just literally drag and drop it into here and it will add it. So here's the actual original, here's the normal map it's trying to create, and here's what it looks like. So let's create here from the models. I'm just going to tell it to be a plane. You can upload your own models if you want. I've unticked rotation because I don't want it to rotate. I just want to actually see it, and you can zoom in. I'm using my middle mouse button to zoom in, and obviously it's square, which is fine because it'll stretch it out right, and then this gives you what you've got here. Then it shows you what your displacement might look like, ambient occlusion, a specular, and then you can play with each of these. So what you can do is up here decide on the strength of it using levels to come up with what you want, and then also the blurriness and the sharpness. Now the sharper it is, you're going to get every little tiny little bit as well in, but I mean that's up to you. Kind of my suggestion is have a go, see how the normal map works, and you can also quickly come back, change it, save it again and replace it, and again that's completely up to you. Okay, but what you would do is go through this, find what you think looks good for your normal map, and then simply come down here, and this one's obviously called normal map. Now you can save them all, but don't, because it names them all the same. What I'll do is I'll just give it a name of, so here we've got like so I would call it brass normal. In fact it's brass normal, but still. And then you would click download, then, which I'm not going to do because I've already done it. I've got all my maps already downloaded here with a HDRI, so I'm just going to show you what to do. Then you go to your displacement, and again you play around with the displacement, deciding how sharp, how smooth, and looking at this all the time and deciding what you want to do and how you want it, and then you download it again. And then we're not using ambient occlusion, but we're going to use specular. So again, with the specular, you can come in here and play around with the highlights and specular if you want this. So one I'm going to do is brass, and the other one I'm just going to do like this ceramic kind of effect. Then you download it, okay, and then you've got them all downloaded. And so if I show you here, I've got the actual displacement, the normal, the spec, and the original, and then I've just got HDRI off a HDRI Haven, I think it is, as well. So we've got that. So let's go through to Lightwave Modeler, and what I want to do is create two flat objects to use. So let's just draw it out in my front, bring up numerical, we'll make it a meter by 500 millimeters. So we've got this, and then we'll just center all the X, Y, and Z like so. And then we shut this down, space bar, press A, and then you can see we've got this like long kind of rectangle. So next thing we'll do is go to the layers here on the side. Let's just call it brass 1, and then I'm going to another layer here. Once you've done one, I'm just going to go to box, press numerical, not going to drag it out. It'll bring up the default settings before, but all I want you to do is in the X and Y, let's put 50 and 50, so we've got all these different polys, so we can use a displacement map on it. So shut the actual numerical, spacebar to drop it. Go to multiply and also triple. So we've tripled on them, so we've got quite a few polys here. In fact, if we go to the polygon option, more stats, we've got 5,000 polys, where in this one we've got 1. Okay, so let's just UV them both. So while we're on the first one, we go to UV, and you can see it's running through the Z. So make UV. I'm just going to call it UV-1. You can call it whatever you want. And it's through the Z. Let's have a look what it looks like. That's exactly what we want. Press create, come out of it. Now go to the next object. Brass 2. Same again. Make UV. Let's just call it 2 this time, so we've not got the same one. Live update is what you got. Create. And then we've got our 2 different objects. Obviously one with 5,000 polys, one with 1. Then we'll press Q on the keyboard to bring up the surface editor, and let's just call this UV-1. You can call this whatever you want, and then again Q, and then UV-2. So they've both got their own, in the surface editor here, they've both got their own UVs. So we can save that, and I'll save it into here. Call it 1 because I've already done 1, and then let's send it through top corner here, look, and we'll send objects to layout. Here we go. So here's our objects on top of each other. Let's just move one to the side like so. Okay, and then if we turn on VPR, you can see what we've got, but this one here is all the 5,000 polys. Now if we go to model and toggle subpatch, that's going to subpatch it, it's going to treble it. So we've got about 15,000 now, and leave this one here like this. So let's start with this one, the 1 poly. Turn on VPR, open your surface editor, then double click the UV1. So this is the one that we're going to use on here. So let's bring some images in. So let's go to the image editor. Remember, we're in layout, and let's import those images. So I've got the displacement, the normal, the spec. In fact, we're bringing all these in, aren't we? So let's just bring them all in. And things we've got to do. So the first one, any that we're using as not images. So there's only one image in here. And that's this one. So this one, under the color space and alpha space, it's sRGB. Everything else is linear because we're using it as data. So we switch these to linear, linear, and linear for the HDRI. So they're all in there ready for us. So let's add some stuff. So what I want to do is I've imported all my images, but I also want to add my HDRI. So I'll go to lights, properties. From the current light, let's change it to environment. Untick use global and time dependence. Then we right mouse click in environments and add a texture environment. Double click it, go to textures. From planar spherical, and from the drop down we want our HDRI, and it's going through the Y like so. So we've got this in the background. So I don't necessarily want to see it, so I'm just going to turn it off so it's not visible like that. It's okay. You can come in here into here if you want. While you're on here, if you go to rotate in the H, you can rotate it, and you'll see it rotating here look in the side to kind of decide what part of the room's where, and so on and so forth. That, again, that's up to you if you want to do that. So next, let's shut this down. So while we're on UV1, we need to go over to presets, and it brings up the preset panel. Click, go across the drop down, go to metal, and let's choose the brass. Double click it and press yes, so it'll add the brass to this. Then we're going to double click and open up the actual brass nodes, and here we've got it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add an image node, and we're not using the image for this. We're just going to use a specular and a normal map. So while we're in here and it's selected, let's use that spec map. We're using the UV, and it's UV1, and then let's plug Luma into spec, and then you get this. Okay, so far. So let's do that. Add node, normal map. We're adding the normal map. It's a UV, UV1. And we're going to plug it we're going to miss this one and plug it directly into the normal here, and then you get this. Okay, now this is just based on specular and the normal, and you can play with you can zoom this up if you want and make it even more, but it just goes a bit over the top because of all the detail and spec. So, and you can also play around with how it's the X, Y, and Z kind of work on it as well if you want. But in general, this is just one way that you can do this. I mean, on here, on the original, there's also, it's got roughness on, so we could turn that completely off if you want. But the problem is with that, it mucks our kind of specular up, which you can come in up and verse it and play around with it. But let's just bring this back up to where it was, so we've got a nice kind of relief. So again, with this, it's a matter of, if you're not happy with it, going back through to the original site and having a play around with the normal maps, seeing if you can make it stronger, clearer, and so on and so forth. But what you kind of get is, you get this kind of style that looks quite nice, like a low relief. If I just save this, so save all, yeah, I want to save it. Let's go and put it into here as number 2. Save. Now if I go back through to Modeler, and let's have a look in Modeler, and what you've got is it in here looking quite nice as well. And again, it's a matter of getting the right detail sticking out and in, if you get what I mean. So just go back to layout. This is where you need to play around with the actual software, the online software, to decide on, is that normal map right? Do I need to do something different? Do you know what I mean? Do I need to play with different, switching it around? Should it be that way round, in fact? And so on and so forth. And you know what I mean? You need to just play around with it and see which is right. Let's say that what you wanted to go that way instead. Yeah, then you would kind of download it and replace the old one. So you would download it, drag and drop it, and make sure it's the same name into here, and then replace it, and then it'll update in Lightwave automatically. I mean, if you want me to show you, I can. You can just I can just download it, and let me just find it, drag and drop it in, replace, jump back into layout, and then it's updated with the with the different settings on, like so. Okay, but what you've noticed, it's using the spec from the old one, which I've changed slightly. So again, you would kind of, okay, if that's not right, go in here. Let's have a look at the spec this time. Let's just see what I want to do, what I want to kind of decide on, and so on and so forth. And you've got the different options here as well. But again, I'm not going to play around too much because I want to get on to the next one. But there. So again, you could, at the end of the day, not use this. But if you don't use the spec with the actual normal, it does look a lot flatter. Okay, and I mean if I bang it into the opposite, into the roughness, it works the opposite way around. But anyway, let's get back to this one. So the second one. This is the one where it's got lots of polys, and I've sub-patched it. So let's do that again. So image, and let's add. So this time we are using the color image. It's a UV and it's UV2, like so. You can see. Okay, let's turn the spec off. We're not using any spec on this one. Well, let's just unplug it, because what I want to do is I want to copy this, paste it, switch it for the displacement, all the same settings. Let's take the Luma and put it into displacement here, and then let's just go back. Now what we've got to do is make sure in the bottom here, look, we're on objects down here, onto the second one, properties, click surface displacement, double click it, and now you can start dragging this up, and you'll notice stuff starts coming through. So let's go and tell it to be 100 mil, and what it's doing is pushing that through using that displacement map, and coming through like so. So if we kind of come in a bit, what you'll see is this is actually all the polygons being disrupted using the image, the positive and negative of the image, to pull it through. So then all we need to do is just bang the colour back in, and then you've got it. That's at low relief, but it's actually not just flat. The difference is, and you can do the same vice versa. This one here is one poly, where this one's like 15,000 or something stupid now, I think. But you can have this on, might be on the side of a wall, or if you've UV the side of a brass cup or something like that, or you know what I mean, or a trophy, and you want this etched in somehow, or you want this round a pillow in a kind of church or something, or you get what I mean, that kind of thing. You could use it in that way. But this is just two ways that you could have a go. And I mean, they're not perfect by any means, but I'm doing it quite quickly without a lot of experimentation. And it's also, remember, it's also about the lighting as well. How's your lighting in the scene? Because you need that light to kind of help manipulate. So for instance, if I go back into the settings here and rotate, and it's how the light and where the light is, where it'll affect the different angles of the actual one with the spec and stuff in it, like so. But yeah, hopefully this has helped answer the question a little bit, and obviously experiment a bit more. I'm sure you'll get a better outcome than myself. But also, if you've never used the site, have a go at this. Having a go at this site here. Do you know what I mean? It's free. I mean, it's not massive and it's not hard. You can actually upload if you want. You can actually upload the actual diffuse if you want. So if I wanted to go and put the original image up, well, this one isn't the original. you can add that on and so on, and you can decide what shows up. You can get it to rotate if you want, see what it looks like rotating. You can load the object up as well if it's not like flat. You might have an object, a statue with some kind of texture on you want on it and stuff, and so on and so forth. Environment, I can't say I've ever bothered with that much. I'm guessing it's just adding some kind of basic HDMI to it. And then obviously you've got the different options here, and so on and so forth. And then there's a picture thing which gets you to play around with. You can actually have a little play with stuff, and have a little go if it's a picture and see what you kind of come up with, and so on and so forth. Do you know what I mean with stuff? But yep, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully this has been useful. Please share, subscribe, go and check out the Lightwave Salvation Facebook group, and look out for my next tutorial.